The final boss of Mafia Bloodlines is a terrifying character who will stop at nothing to get his revenge. As the series' main antagonist, he plays a huge part in driving the story forward and really makes you feel like you re a part of the action. But that doesn't mean he isn't without his flaws. Hello, I'm your host, and today we'll be taking a look at some of the worst decisions made by the final boss of Mafia Bloodlines. These are my choices for the top 5 dumbest things done by the final boss of Mafia Bloodlines. Please remember to like this video if you enjoyed it, subscribe if you want more videos just like this one. And without further ado, let's get right into it. At No. 5, choosing to trust Luca. After the player character, aka the protagonist, kills off all of the bosses of the other families, the protagonist has now taken over the territory of these families, meaning he is quite literally a made man. This, of course, puts him at odds with the other families, but also at odds with the most powerful family in the game, the Corleone family, because they didn't agree with this move. Because of this, the player character is now working with Luca to take down the Corleones. However, if the player character had stuck around a little longer, he would have realized that Luca was a double agent working for the very people he was trying to help. To make matters worse, the player character would find out that Luca had killed several members of the player character's own family in order to frame the player character, which of course started the whole revenge plot in the first place. It would seem that in the heat of the moment, Luca would be killed by a rival gang member, but not before revealing that he had set up the player character for killing Sonny Corleone, setting up the entire game. So yeah, that's a pretty stupid thing to do. At number 4, attacking the player character in a bar. When playing Mafia games, it's important to remember that your character does indeed have enemies. However, there's always a way to tell where your enemies are, and that's usually through the enemy indicator above their heads. In the case of the penultimate mission, this isn't so much an enemy indicator, as it is a spotlight telling you exactly where to go when you need to kill somebody. During this mission, you are told to meet with a contact who will later become an ally. But before you can get to them, you'll need to clear out a bar of enemies. While this is a pretty standard side mission, the problem arises when you realize that none of these guys are actually hostile. They're just sitting in the bar minding their own business. The only indication that these men are in fact enemies is the red skull above their heads, which to be honest is kind of immersion breaking when you think about it. It's like the game is pointing at the enemies and saying, hey, go kill those guys. Also, why were they even in the bar? Did they not know that the player character was going to show up? If they did know, then why didn't they attack him outside, or at least wait until he entered the bar? Or maybe they just did uncare and were willing to die in a hail of bullets trying to take the player character out, which to be fair is something that would happen a lot in the 1940s and 50s. Number 3, sending men after the player character's daughter. While many characters in Mafia 3 share the common trait of being completely stupid, there's one in particular who definitely takes the cake, and that's the boss's son, who probably got his dim-wittedness from his father. Anyway, towards the end of the game, after the player character has disposed of several key members of the Italian Mafia, including a couple of the boss's sons, the remaining son decides that enough is enough. He's tired of the player character causing problems for the family and ruining his life. So what does he do? You guessed it, he sends men after the player character's daughter. Now this guy already made the mistake of kidnapping the player character's daughter earlier in the game, but he decided to do it again because he thought the player character would come to rescue, or again because he was busy taking down the rest of the Mafia. So he thought this would be a clever idea, but it's not. Not only is this incredibly stupid, especially since the player character had already saved his sister, but it also shows that the son has no respect for his own father or the family name. How could he not understand that killing the daughter of his own boss would result in an angry boss? If he wanted to make his father proud, he should have followed in his footsteps and become a hitman instead of becoming a kidnapper. Number 2, leaving his son alone. Yes, in the previous entry, we talked about how stupid it was for the son to kidnap the daughter of the player character. However, what was perhaps an even dumber decision was the fact that the boss allowed his son to do this in the first place. After all, the son had attempted to do this before, but he was stopped by the player character. This meant that the boss knew his son was planning something, yet he still allowed him to continue. Perhaps he thought that his son was smart enough to get away with it, or maybe he just didn't care and hoped that the player character would kill his son. Whatever the reason may be, this was certainly a very stupid decision to make, because if the player character hadn't shown up, the son would have almost certainly been killed by the police, or worse, the daughter would have been killed by one of the rival gangs that were looking to capture her. Luckily, the player character arrived in time and was able to save both the son and the daughter. After this point, the player character confronted the boss and demanded that the son apologize for what he did. However, the boss refused, which led to the player character killing him. And finally, at no. 1. Attacking the player character in his own house. So, the player character wasn't the only one with a stupid son. The final boss also had a stupid son who would later be killed by the player character after the events of the last entry. After the death of his brother, the final boss was left with only one son, which made him even more determined to avenge his brother's deaths. So what does he do? Well, he goes straight to the player character's house and attempts to kill him and his wife. I don't think I really have to explain why this is such a terrible idea. I mean, the player character had already killed 2 of his sons. Why would he risk killing another one when he had the power to kill the player character at any time? If he had just waited until the player character came out of his house, could have easily gotten him in an ambush or something, but no, he decided to try and storm the player character's house, which led to him getting shot by the player character's wife, and then later getting thrown out of the house, and then getting run over by a car. Oh well, I guess that's one way to go. Thank you so much for watching. Here are 5 more videos you might like. And here are 5 more videos you might like. Please remember to like and subscribe. And as always, have a good one.